basically just to keep things running on an even keel, get everything ready before working bees, make sure all the paperwork and everything like that's organised before events, to make sure that everybody has a really enjoyable gardening experience in here, and just to make sure that the garden is running nicely so that everybody's got what they need, and everybody just has a really good time in here. Personally, I'm experiencing climate change through these extreme weather events that we're having, these massive heat waves. We definitely notice around here changes in rainfall patterns, prolonged droughts. We've all experienced the water shortages. So yeah, I mean, climate change is everywhere, you can't really escape it. Particularly in the garden here, we're dealing with plants who are, require the sun and water and everything to grow. When we're having these really extreme weather events, particularly heat waves, the plants just aren't designed to cope with these sort of conditions. They didn't grow up in the desert, and they're not used to desert-like conditions where you have a week of over 40-degree days. It's so dry and so hot, they don't really stand a chance. So here in the garden, we're losing plants throughout the summer. So yeah, there's some really big effects in our garden. We all really do notice it.
Climate change has a very strong impact on the way that we in council plan for emergencies. In the past, I think there's been a tendency to look to historical climate data and past experiences in order to determine and project what we can expect in the future. But climate change has really changed those historical patterns, and we can no longer look to the past in order to determine how we're going to act in the future and what we can expect. And in terms of summer preparedness, it's not always just about fires. I guess we're really worried about heat waves because it is the biggest killer in Australia of natural disasters. Heat wave is the biggest one. So in terms of getting our community's awareness raised about heatwave safety, what we're going to try and do is perhaps work alongside the SES. They've got some stands set up at some local community festivals, and we can try and go there and provide a presence and just get them talking about heatwave safety and how they can prepare for heat waves without necessarily being dependent on air conditioning or requiring to even leave their homes. So what are some of the things that they can do for themselves to make sure that they're prepared? One of the issues that we're working really hard on is with heatwave planning. So we're trying to get the idea across that people should be preparing for heat waves and being less dependent on electricity in doing so. So getting strategies out there to deal with heat waves without depending on air conditioning, for example, is a way that people can be in their homes safe, and if there are surges on the electrical grid, then they won't be as affected. And so this is it goes hand in hand with climate change adaptation as well, being less dependent on electricity and being able to better respond to emergencies like heat waves.
I think climate change has affected the school because of these increase in temperatures. There's been a lot more heat waves, and these buildings that have been around for a long time haven't been built to take this into consideration. So the rooms get really, really hot, especially in those heat waves. They heat up, and it's really hard to cool them down. So the children come into the classrooms on these hot days, and it's not an optimum situation for them. The temperatures are too hot, the children get lethargic, they're very tired, so they're not learning the best way they can. So it does impact on their learning, and as a result of that, we've had to now put in air conditioners so that we can create that temperature so that it's much more beneficial for their learning. I have all the children come through the kitchen, and we work on making yummy food from different nations around the world. We try and use seasonal vegetables as much as possible because it's affordable and realistic food to make. The kids love coming in here. They get to taste what they've made, and hopefully they go home and try and make some of those recipes at home with their family, because they're very affordable and easy for them to do. Because we've had to install new air conditioners in most of the classrooms, we've had increased energy costs, and also we're increasing our impact on the environment, which is not the idea to be a sustainable school. So being part of the Resource Smart program, we're going to look at ways how we can reduce those energy costs and the energy use. And so things like learning how to have the temperature on the air conditioners at the right temperature to create the optimum learning environment, making sure that we close doors, making sure that the children aren't going outside and getting hot as much as possible. But we can't really help that at lunchtime. On a hot day, kids are kids and they do love to go outside and play, and they can get really hot. So they'll often come in and they really need to come into that cooler environment to be able to do anything that's of any value to their learning.